So yesterday I sat down and I watched Tahoe Joe 1 and 2 because I had not seen 1. And I was like, well, I gotta see 1 before I see 2. It's a brand new 2024 film. And then after I finished those, I saw that there was this other 2-film found footage series on Tubi called The House on Mansfield Street, Part 1 and 2. And I was like, all right, screw it. Let's try this one out as well. So we'll talk about both of them real quick. The first one is like 6 or 7 years old now, and the new one is new this year. So the first one, it's this guy. He's like moving to a new place, so he wants to like document it. He's a documentary filmmaker, and he wants to, of course, film everything. That one is like a Paranormal Activity clone, but way less eventful. If you thought little happened in Paranormal Activity, then oh my god, you're going to be bored out of your mind with this one. I mean, I really don't have a whole lot to say about that one. I feel like it's fairly uneventful. And I think one of the common issues that I'm finding from this one and the next one for this series is the believability factor with a lot of different issues, which I'm usually willing to forgive as long as it's either addressed or it feels somewhat plausible in the moment. But like when you see certain things and then you like try to show your friends, or don't try to show your friends, or don't try to show the police, or don't try to show the person that's over, or whatever, or you do, and you know they don't believe you even though it's so obvious that this is something insane. Or you know, if you go upstairs and there's like someone in your room, or if you see a ghost that is like on camera at the top of the stairs sitting there and like looking at you and saying things to you, and then you like go down and you kind of try to tell somebody, but then they're not really listening, and then you just kind of move on. That kind of stuff. It's just, found footage is tough. It's very tough because, of course, and horror is tough, but with found footage, because there's such a realism built into it, the audience is not as willing to suspend disbelief as they will in other forms of horror storytelling. So with found footage, you have to really, really work on the believability of the events and the character decisions and everything. And it is a very tough blend to get right. I do understand that. So I never try to knock these films for this. I just felt that this was asking too much in that regard. And with the first one, it's so uneventful, but then when certain things do happen, you're kind of like, okay, it's time to leave. And you know, with the first one, they do somewhat of an okay job of explaining like why this guy continues to keep filming. He wants to document this and whatnot. The second one, I feel like they just kind of like just say fuck it. They're not going to really explain why he's continuing to film. I mean, there might be little reasons or whatever given. I just, it's not enough. And there's so many things, because the second one definitely ramps it up and gives us more. I'm sure that the director of this listened to the critiques of the first one and were like, we need more to happen. Unfortunately, what happens with more happening is you have to come up with an idea of why they'd stay, why they'd film, why that, you know, you do have to address these things. They're pesky and they're annoying to try to write around because they're really complicated to make believable, because realistically most people wouldn't do these things. So you have to come up with really clever ways of making people do these things that we otherwise would be like, no fucking way. And as I said, when you see something so obviously, or when you're hearing the neighbors next door and they're fighting, and then the cops come over and you're like trying to play them the audio and it isn't working, and you're like, am I, you know, am I just insane or whatever? I could never buy into any of that stuff. And the reveal in part 2 is so obvious. I mean, they make it so obvious from the get-go of what's all going on there. So when it all is end up being revealed, you're kind of like, well, yeah. I mean, am I not supposed to have seen this coming? And the connections to the first one are fine. Like, I was glad that they connected. I was glad that there was some you know, um, connections to the first. But I don't know. I just, overall, I'm very blah on this franchise, or if you want to call it a franchise, 2 films. I typically call anything over 1 a franchise, but whatever you want to call it, series or 2 films or whatever the fuck. These are like Paranormal Activity, but much less uneventful and much less believable, right? Like with Paranormal Activity, they really know how to ramp things up, show just enough, and then have the characters' reactions to those things make perfect sense of why they're continuing to keep going on. Especially in those first few. I mean, most of them, honestly, but like 1, 2, 3, and 5 marked ones. I just feel like they do such a great job of that believability. And because this is kind of aping off of those films, Paranormal Activity laid the blueprint, the groundwork for films like this, where you have someone investigating a spirit or something in the house and you're filming it while you sleep or whatever. This is obviously something that Paranormal Activity was famous for. Whether or not they started it doesn't really matter. They're the ones that made it popular to do and was the most popular film to have done it. So you're always going to kind of be compared to those things. And why Paranormal Activity works so well is, number one, its characters. I fucking love the Paranormal Activity characters. I just do. I love, all of them pretty much from the franchise. So big fan of like the men, especially like Mika. And anyway, I don't want to talk too much about Paranormal Activity. I'm just saying, because this is so similar, I want you to understand why I think this doesn't work and why I think Paranormal Activity does work. And, I think if you're a found footage enthusiast who loves Paranormal Activity clones, these are fine. I think the acting in this is fine. I think it's good. I don't really have any issues with that exactly. I do have some issues with, like, why are they filming? Why, at this point they're gone. Like, there's not enough reason for them to stay in the house. There's not enough reason for them to see something that they see and to not believe themselves and to ditch out, or to, like when you catch a ghost on camera and someone is there with you, you then show them that footage, right? It's right there. You have the fucking camera. This is modern technology. You can instant playback. Here's what I saw. And of course they can always do the like visual distortions or whatever, but like when you see that, you're just going to go to bed that night after you straight up like 100% it's too much. It's too, like, it's either not enough like the first one, or it's too much in the second one. So there is that balance, and it's hard to find. That's why I'm saying it's a tough act to balance. Found footage horror is really, really tough. And, this isn't terrible. I watched both of them. Typically if they're terrible, I'll shut them off and you won't even hear a review. I shut off probably 50 films a year that I never even discuss on the channel. Those are the real stinkers. Like, you guys think I blast into the movies that I hate on this channel? You should see what I would think of the movies if I had to finish the ones that I shut off. So if I get through them, for the most part, they're not that bad. There are ones here and there, like Death House or something, where I'm just like, I'm in it and I watch like 30 minutes of it, and at that point I'm like, you know what, I'm sticking this out so that I can destroy this piece of shit because I hate it so much. That's super rare, because as you guys know, I do not like being negative on the channel. It's not something I enjoy. I know some of you enjoy it, but when I watch like Jeepers Creepers 3 or Jeepers Creepers Reborn or something, I just sit there and I'm like, it's part of a series too, so then of course I'm kind of obligated to sit through it. But with movies like this, they're fine. They're watchable. They're okay. You kind of roll your eyes at a bunch of things. You start questioning a bunch of the logic and whatnot. But yeah, so that's that. Been watching a lot of found footage lately. Curry Barker's film Milk and Cereal got me real high on found footage films again, so you're probably going to see a good amount of reviews in the subgenre, which is exciting. I like watching these. I like finding the gems, and found footage enthusiasts who love Paranormal Activity clones, you can give this one a shot. They're on Tubi. They're free. Let me know. All right. Bye.